What's up, everybody? Welcome into NBA DFS Live for Monday, January 4th. I'm your host, Ben Hosser, joined by Justin Bales. Bales, you got a new look on the screen here. got our DraftKings projections pulled up. These are free, posted every day. DFSkarma.com under the basketball tab. Projections portal gets updated throughout the day. Obviously, updates are not final right now. Still have some news to trickle in. About an hour before lock, Sam will do another update as well, which will fix like some of the ownership projections and stuff like that. But this can kind of give you a look at some of the positions while we talk about them. We're gonna go with our usual format here. Go through the positions. Bales, before we get into that, what's just your thoughts on the slate? I'm a little behind on research today, so you can just tell me. I know there was a ton of injury news. We did end up getting some of that around 1:30, which was helpful. So what's just your thoughts on the slate as a whole? Oh, Justin, we messed it up. You're talking and no one can hear you. This is not good. All right, we gotta. No one can hear you. I'm gonna try and fix it. That is not good. Let's see. All right. All right, talk now.
Can everyone hear me now? Or
All
are we
right,
just
and if you're watching this, let me know if you can hear Bales now. So Bales, talk, repeat what you just said, and we will find out if they can hear you or not.
all right? It's good now.
That's good now. Okay, cool.
So what I was saying was we have a few guys like James Harden and Luka Doncic that were questionable, which kind of sucked, but now have basically been ruled in. And then some other guys like Tyrese Halliburton have been ruled out. But it seems like the majority of value plays have decent pivots off of them. Like Corey Joseph and Peyton Pritchard are only 100 apart. So we're not going to have any ridiculous chalk like Jalen Brunson at 80% owned, as long as nothing changes, which obviously it certainly can.
Yeah, I agree. It was great that we got some of that news earlier. So we'll start at point guard. Where are you going at point guard? Because I mean, you see Steph Curry, like we have him projected for the third most points on the slate. I think he's going to garner a lot of ownership coming off that game last night. Obviously, over 60 real points. Looked completely different. He kind of just. I was kind of kicking myself. I played him on FanDuel yesterday. I was going to play him on DraftKings, and then I didn't. And I was kind of kicking myself for it, like right when their game started, because it just kind of seemed like right from the jump he was just going to be more aggressive than he has been, and that definitely showed through. Like his usage rate was over 45% last night. It was around 30% for the season, so he definitely came out and just looked to attack. Wasn't passing as much, and I am a little concerned that it's a back to back. Obviously, he's a shooter, so sometimes that can affect shooting, but the game environment is probably the best on the slate, and he's still well under 10K. So I think he's going to obviously be really high owned. So what are you doing at point guard outside of Steph Curry?
Yeah, I think Curry's really good. The weird thing to me that's actually kind of crazy is there are what I believe 6 guys over 7,500 that I feel 100% comfortable playing. Curry probably gets the most ownership. I am 100% fine playing James Harden. I know some people will be off of him with Houston fully healthy. I'm not one of those people, especially against Dallas. De'Aaron Fox at 82 is really, really appealing. And then the other 3 are John Wall at 76, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 78, and Malcolm Brogdon at 79. Out of them, Gilgeous-Alexander is probably my favorite, even in a tough matchup. But, he's kind of always going to really get those peripheral stats. So his ceiling is more or less dependent on him scoring, and his usage rating is one of the higher on the slate, and you're not really paying a premium for him, where he's, 1,500 less than a guy like Steph Curry. But, I mean, Curry's the number one option, I think. I think De'Aaron Fox is a little behind him, and then I think the other four are kind of in a category behind both of them, most likely.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fox is a really good play. Love his price on DraftKings at 8,200. I don't see how Golden State, obviously, that's the game environment that I think a lot of people are going to want to attack. I don't see how they stop him. I don't really think they have anybody that can slow him down. So I do think he's a really good play opposite Curry. I think Trey Young is really interesting. He's 500 more than Curry. I think he's going to be a lot lower owned. Really good matchup against New York. He absolutely owns Elfrid Payton. I don't know if you know these splits, but last year I think he averaged like almost 40 points. Like if you broke it down per 36, like it was almost 40 points against Elfrid Payton. Like he just owns him. So I like that matchup, and I like that he's going to be a little bit lower owned than Curry for a little bit more expensive. So I think he's a good like pivot in tournaments. SGA, someone I like to play. Are you off him against Miami? I don't know if I'm going to play him against Miami.
No, I'm cool with him. I think, Miami's defense hasn't been nearly as good this year. I know, obviously, Jimmy Butler's been hurt, and that's a big part of it. But, I'm just not as scared. And they're, like, right around league average in pace, so it's not like they're really going to slow it down a ridiculous amount. And he has the floor, more or less. I know he had that really bad game against the Pelicans. It is what it is. They just got completely blown out. So unless you're really projecting something like that, which I don't see how we can, he kind of has like the 35-point floor, and his ceiling is as high as, the majority of the guys, and he's just significantly cheaper.
Yeah. So I think I prefer Wall to him though. So do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I think Wall's going to come with much higher ownership, which, I feel like they're relatively close. I would say Wall probably is slightly better, but I think Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have a lot less ownership.
All right. I mean, moving down to the mid tier, none of this is really sticking out as like super good value. Like I think like Peyton on the other side of Trey Young's interesting. I really like LaMelo Ball again in tournaments at 5,600. What's your take on him? I mean, I don't know if it's going to be tonight, but eventually, he's going to start and move into the starting lineup. I don't know when that will be, but I liked him. I think that was Saturday night. I thought he was going to move into the starting lineup. Same matchup against Philly. I liked him. He ended up not doing that, stayed on the bench, but he did play more minutes alongside Rozier in that game and got up over 30 DraftKings points. So I think he's a good tournament play at his price.
Yeah, I like him. He's one of the other guy that I would talk in this price range would be Darius Garland, assuming he plays. But LaMelo Ball, I like more. 5,600 is just way too cheap for, one, what he's been doing, but two, he's not even really scoring very well. Like he's not efficient from the floor, and at some point in time he is going to have like that pop-off game that he can have. It's just he adds rebounds, assists, steals so well that he doesn't really need to score 20, 25 points to really go off.
Yep, I agree. And then if you catch him on the night that he does like randomly shoot the ball well, like he's gonna have a really big night. As far as value goes, I don't know who your favorite. I think Pritchard is probably my favorite value option. With Teague out, like Brad Stevens continually will just talk about how much he likes this kid to the media. I don't know what's going on, but he really likes him. He's cheap. I played him in a similar situation last week, and Teague wasn't even out. So now we take Teague out of the picture. Obviously, Kemba's still out. So I think Pritchard's probably my favorite value play at this position. But I know like if Garland was out, like I think Dante Exum would be interesting at 39. Obviously, you mentioned Corey Joseph a little bit, but who's your favorite value option?
Yeah, I think Peyton Pritchard's the safest one. And then, Corey Joseph, I think, is a solid pivot off of him. I'm assuming more ownership's just going to go to Pritchard. But without Halliburton in the lineup, Joseph's going to play much bigger minutes. And, if his shot's falling, he's going to score really well.
Yeah, I think we can. You have anyone else there? Can we move to shooting guard?
No, I think we're pretty good. Well, I mean, Delon Wright, I'm fine saying him too. He should see bigger minutes with Josh Jackson out. So at 4K, I feel like you're fine playing him too.
Yeah, so shooting guard, I mean, you have Harden at the top 11-1. What are you doing with Harden today? I'm completely fine not playing him in cash, but obviously, tournaments, you would probably want to get some exposure to him if you're running multiple teams.
Yeah, I'm cool. Honestly, I'm good with him. I'm good without him. I don't think it matters that much. I do think people are kind of panicking a little bit where Houston's healthy and they're thinking that his usage is going to go down. It isn't. His usage in the only full healthy game was 38%. Like Harden's not a guy that's going to lose usage to literally anyone. So at 11-1, I'm completely fine playing him, but he's getting to the price point where I don't necessarily think you have to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe one of the more popular options today is going to be Buddy Hield in that same game against the Warriors. It seems too cheap. Like I don't like to play Buddy Hield in cash generally because he's so scoring dependent. But both sites have been pretty down on his price tag to start the year. Like he's going to play big minutes. He does have the ability, obviously, to get hot from three and really bust that price tag. But I mean, do you agree? I think he's going to be pretty chalky. I would assume.
I would imagine I feel like shooting guard's like a really bad position tonight.
Yeah.
And I feel like almost everyone is going to go either James Harden or Buddy Hield pretty much.
Yeah, he's just super affordable. So who do you like kind of in that in between range then? Because I think like Oladipo at 7K is interesting to me. You can make the case for Jaylen Brown, but 8,300 is getting up there where I would rather play Jason Tatum at a different position for around that same price tag. Sexton is always tournaments for me just because he can score, but it's tough to DraftKings was so aggressive with this price tag at the beginning of the year. You haven't really got him at any value. So who do you like in between Harden and like the mid tier?
Yeah, I think the two that you said are completely fine. I think Oladipo is probably one of the guys that I favor a little more. I'll also say Andrew Wiggins. I mean, we've kind of see him be like a boom or bust option this year, which is a little surprising based on what he should be doing in that offense. But he does come with a ton of upside, and I would be really completely fine playing him in tournaments. But I mean, there's honestly not a lot that I like at this position.
Yeah, we should mention Fournier is questionable. So if he was out, Michael Carter Williams probably will start again. Would be okay for value, but Terrence Ross I think would be interesting. Price is up a little bit. I played him on Saturday night. He had like 40. Obviously, wouldn't be expecting that, but good matchup against the Cavs. And if you take Fournier out, like Ross's minutes do get bumped up like a good bit. Like he's gonna play a lot.
Yeah, he just also throws up the ball whenever he wants. I think he had like 21 shots in that game.
Dude. I know he's
good. Just wait until he is actually hitting them. He shot 9 of 21 in that game.
Yeah,
imagine if
insane.
he actually
played him. I played him once before. I've played him twice in cash this year, and it was the night he had 40 DraftKings points and I think 30. I think I played him against Washington the first time, so he had 33. But yeah, I'm completely fine to play him if Fournier's out.
You have him. You have.
Yeah, that's been my boy. Frosty even texted me about him like on Saturday night. Like Terrence Ross has been my boy this year, so I definitely am down to play him. You have anyone else at this position? You're right. This is a pretty gross position.
It's really weak, and I really, really don't think you have to go here, and I don't want to. But if you kind of want someone that's going to get some minutes, it's really cheap. Aaron Holiday is only 3,500, just with the value, at the other guards, and like Sadiq Bey, we haven't talked about him yet, but we will. I don't think you have to play him, but Aaron Holiday, if you want like a weird pivot.
Yeah, you could probably talk me into that. So we'll move to small forward. This is no big names here really today. You have Ben Simmons, those guys at the top. Tatum, Ingram, but nobody over. Simmons is 9-1, I think. So no one super high up. I think it's a good Simmons is not someone I'm gonna play in cash really unless someone is out like Embiid or something. But he does have a good matchup. He had a really nice game against Charlotte the last time they played, and if you look at it, Charlotte's not good at rim protection. Ben Simmons, obviously someone that's going to drive the ball a lot, so I think it is a good matchup for him. Tobias Harris had a good night as well in that same game, and then Ingram, I think. I mean, you could probably play him most nights, right? Like I don't really have any issues with
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram. So who do you like at this position for tournaments or even cash games?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm spending up, I have no problems whatsoever playing Jason Tatum. And then the guy that I really like is Tobias Harris. I wrote him up for his last game. He went out, dominated. I don't see him getting 7 blocks and steals again. But, he didn't really need it for his price tag. So I really like him again. Another guy that, how you and Terrence Ross have been on the exact same page.
You get it.
I've played Gordon Hayward 3 times this year. In those 3 games, he scored 20, 25, and 31. In his other 3, he's scored over 45 in each of them. So I'm just the opposite with Gordon Hayward. Me and him are not on the same page whatsoever.
I've kind of gotten that too, because I played him that one night that he just did not play well at all. So I'm kind of right there with you.
So, I mean, I'm fine with him too in the higher price range. If you're dropping down a little, it seems like Harrison Barnes is just kind of ridiculously priced still. It doesn't make that much sense. And then, like Kelly Oubre, I'm fine with. The guy that most people I would assume are going to play is going to be Saddiq Bey at 3,900. And, he's really, really good chalk, I think, tonight. So I'll probably end up with him in my lineups.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to get away from Saddiq Bey with Blake Griffin out, Josh Jackson out. Like, you don't even need him to, like, score, right? Like, he's so cheap. He's going to be on the floor. He can rebound. Like, you don't really need him to have a good night scoring, and he's going to pretty easily beat that price tag. So we would assume this leads to, like, a Stars and Scrubs build night on DraftKings. If you're going to plug in Pritchard, who's under 4K, and Bey under 4K, like, that's just 2 guys that you're plugging in right there. And then you're going to have some room to spend up. So I definitely agree that you want to play Bey in cash. I think Jeremy Grant is an interesting pivot in tournaments. He's been really good offensively. Not even sure if he's been good. It's just he is literally doing
volume.
Yeah, like he's just doing everything offensively. Now you take Blake off the floor. The only problem is that game. Like Bey is someone that you would feel comfortable, like he's going to play even if it's a blowout. I mean, the spread's like 16 points. So you feel fine with Saddiq Bey getting minutes regardless, whereas Grant could maybe see some limited minutes if the game gets out of hand in the fourth quarter. So how are you handling that game? We haven't really talked, like we didn't talk about Middleton a lot. How are you handling that game from like a Milwaukee perspective?
Honestly, I haven't put a ridiculous amount of thought into it yet. Realistically, it doesn't. I feel like most Milwaukee players aren't really popping anyway today, to the point where like I'm dying to play them. So add in the risk of it being a blowout, and like you can convince me that at 10-8 Giannis is a fine play. I'm not going to talk you off of him, or Middleton, even like Drew Holiday. Even in a blowout, like at least one of those guys is going to get theirs because they're going to be the reason for the blowout. And I feel like Bobby Portis is a really solid option at only 4,900 because he can score so well in such limited minutes. Outside of that, though, there's not really anyone that I think I want to touch on Milwaukee, because if you're looking at the limited minutes, you just solely want all of the usage. And outside of Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis, you're not really getting it. But then just solely in terms of Bobby Portis, like if they give him 25 minutes, which would be normal, he could drop 35 fantasy points. So for his price, he's kind of the outlier. But it's basically big 3 for them, for me. And then on the Detroit side, I don't care about the blowout that much. I talked to James about this earlier. I don't think it matters for them. I think Derrick Rose is a guy that comes with a little bit of risk, because if they get blown out, he's going to get benched. And then I said that I also believe Jeremy Grant, like you said earlier. But at the same time, Grant's played 30-plus minutes in every game, so it's not like they're going to play him 20 minutes and then stop. Whereas, like, who else is getting benched? Like, Saddiq Bey is going to play. DeLone Wright will be fine. Plumlee's minutes are likely okay. There's just no one. Killian Hayes is young. They're going to give it to him. So I don't really worry for Detroit outside of, like, Derrick Rose. But Milwaukee, I feel like it's the big 3 in Portis, and I'm only going to play one of those big 3. I wouldn't play all 3 together, or even 2 of the 3 together, really.
Yeah, I actually kind of thought Rose wasn't going to play today. Um,
Yeah, we said the same thing. It would make sense that he wouldn't play.
yeah, so keep your eye on that. I guess I wouldn't be surprised still if they even ruled him out like closer to lock, like just like a little surprise thing, because I just didn't think he was going to play. So we'll wait and see. But I do think Hayes, maybe you could look at in tournaments if you've seen that. But you can't really play these Bucks guys in cash. I don't think like Giannis is someone that needs the minutes. Like he doesn't need the minutes because he's gonna have a big game regardless. But you would feel better about him in cash if he gets those minutes, and it's just tough to trust him getting those minutes if the game is really that big of a blowout. But for tournaments, you could definitely use him. I'm not gonna blame you at all. Portis definitely is interesting, especially with how like they've been blowing blowouts, and he's been getting the minutes. So I do think Portis is interesting. You have anyone else here? We can move on.
Just 1 second. Brent said Bledsoe. Bledsoe. I mean,
he's fine. If he's still really cheap on FanDuel, like I played him on FanDuel the other day, like he's fine.
Yeah, I think he's okay too. It's just against Indy, I don't love it necessarily, but in tournaments I'm cool with him.
Yeah, we did get some news on Kevin Durant for tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
Great.
Yeah, he's out for like health protocol for tomorrow, so I think it's a smaller slate tomorrow, only like 5 games or so, but I'm sure that'll be interesting. Power forward, loaded position here. You have Giannis, Domantas Sabonis, Julius Randle, Jason Tatum, Ingram, some of the guys that we already mentioned. And then Zion at 7,900 has not been playing very well the last couple games, so I would like a take on what you're doing with Zion. But we kind of covered Giannis when we were talking about the Bucks guys. So Sabonis, Randle, even Tatum, like who do you like out of that trio right there?
I think my favorite is going to be Jason Tatum. I'm completely fine with Sabonis or Randle. Zion, I'm likely not going to play. He's just a bit expensive, and there's other options that I like a lot more. I feel like, honestly, I'm probably going to make sure that I spend down here because Chris Boucher, I don't even know how to say it, honestly, is 5,100. Dude, if he's getting 25 minutes at 5,100, it's too cheap. The guy just is a fantasy gold mine.
Yeah, he's a beast, and I like kind of what they've been doing with his rotations, letting him play alongside guys. So I would be down for that in tournaments. I think Rashawn Holmes is going to be a chalky option today in that game that we really like. He's been getting the minutes. Like the problem with Rashawn Holmes has always been Luke Walton just limits people's minutes and doesn't give them, but he's played over 30, I think, in 3 straight. And they've really kind of condensed the rotation. And I actually think Halliburton being out even helps Rashawn Holmes because I think it helps Bagley too. I think they'll run some bigger lineups out there. So that kind of solidifies the hope that he's going to get 30-plus minutes again. So I think he's going to be a popular option. And I think it makes Bagley interesting for tournaments. But have you seen like this stuff going on with like Marvin Bagley's dad and all this stuff? Like, yeah, it's just so weird to me, man. Although I wouldn't want to play for Luke Walton either, so I don't really kind of blame him, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bagley's really good, and the fact that you play him 25 minutes every night is really stupid in my opinion, but also, like, you're an NBA player, so it's always really weird for your dad to publicly bash your team.
Someone said that, I don't know if this is true, someone said that, like, Marvin Bagley's dad would be at like the Kings like team shop at the arena, and he would just be like yelling at people. Maybe not yelling, but he would just be like, "Why are you buying that? Like, you gotta buy a Bagley jersey." Like he would like heckle people that aren't buying Marvin Bagley stuff. I don't know if that's true. I just saw that.
That sounds like LeVar Ball.
Yeah. All right. So I would like you to take Zion first of all. I don't know what you're doing there. I don't think I can play him in cash tournaments for sure. But as of right now, cash, I probably would cross him out. And then in that Atlanta-New York game, like Randle and Collins, who do you like between those two? Obviously, Randle, you probably lean, but what's your take on Collins today?
Yeah, I'm fine with Collins. I think Clint Capella playing big minutes, and I do really like Clint Capella, is going to really limit John Collins. So I'll probably just more or less take a wait-and-see approach to him because I know he has the ceiling. I just don't think he's going to hit it that often with Capella playing 30 plus. As for Julius Randle, I mean, the offense is basically just running through him at this point. 9K is a lot. I'm fine with that in tournaments. I feel like I just don't see that much of a reason to play him over someone like Tatum if you're looking at cash. And if you drop down to someone like Zion, specifically looking at cash, I just don't see a reason you would really play him over someone like Tobias Harris, who's basically the same price. So Randle and Zion are more or less just tournament options for me, with Jason Tatum and Tobias Harris being also tournament options, but the guys that if you're like dead set on spending in that range for cash, those are probably the guys that I would go.
Yeah, would you rather play Zion or Christian Wood?
Christian Wood, that man is just unstoppable.
I can't believe it. I think I'd rather play Wood too. It's crazy to me that that we're at that point. What about last guy, Aaron Gordon? What's your thoughts on him? I think he's interesting for tournaments.
Someone said what happened to Aaron Gordon. He's awful. What happened to Aaron Gordon is that he's on a minutes restriction. So if you watch his games, it's the funniest thing ever. He'll come out with like, I don't know, 5 minutes left in the first, which means he played about 7 minutes, and he'll have 16, 17 fantasy points. And then he'll barely score for the rest of the game because he's only playing 20 minutes. And
yeah.
I mean, if they would give him 35, 36 minutes, I'm all in. I think he's fine, honestly, as long as he's going to get like minutes in the high 20s. I just don't trust him. So I don't necessarily see too much of a reason to play him at 59, but I do think he's fine against Cleveland in tournaments. Obviously, I would not play him in cash.
Yep, I agree with that. We'll move on to center and kind of finish up here. You can just give me your take on the position. Obviously, there's kind of less to go off here. Only have to play, one of them on FanDuel. DraftKings, I feel like we play two centers more often than not.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I think Capella at 61 is definitely interesting. I don't know. It's a weird position for me today.
You just totally went out. I have no clue what you just said.
Oh, I said I think Capella at 61 is interesting, but it's like a weird position overall for me today, so I don't know where you're going.
Yeah, for me, I feel like Rashawn Holmes seems like the lock at 56.
Yeah, we mentioned him at power forward, but yeah, we're already I think you're taking Pritchard, Sadiq Bey, and Rashawn Holmes, and you're plugging those guys in, and then you're probably plugging Curry in as well. So there's 4 people that you're probably putting in your lineup off the bat.
Yep. And then I think most likely for utility, you're choosing between Christian Wood and Clint Capella. I probably leave slightly Capella because he's so much cheaper. I really like both of them. Then when you're looking at tournaments, I mean, there's so many good options. If you want a ridiculously cheap guy, Kelly Olynyk is 3,900. I have absolutely no issues whatsoever with playing him. I think Bam Adebayo in the same game is pretty solid. Or if you just want a game where the centers are going to touch the ball a ton and there's literally no defense, you could take Andre Drummond or Nikola Vucevic. Imagine playing them against each other because you're going to get the usage and neither one plays any defense whatsoever. So they could each drop like 60 against each other.
Yeah, I really like that game. Like that matchup for those centers. So I actually agree with that. If you had to pick one of them, who would you pick?
I think I would pick Drummond still. I feel like he's going to get the lower ownership because everyone got screwed by him the other night, and I would be willing to bet most didn't forget it. I feel like Vucevic is safer.
Yeah, I think Vooch is safer. I think Vooch has done really well against Drummond. I'll have to look this up after stream, but just off the top of my head, kind of remembering it, I think Vooch has done good against him. Obviously, you wouldn't anticipate Drummond kind of getting pulled out to where Vooch can roam. So I think I might pick Vooch if picking one, but I think both of them are super interesting.
Yeah, I agree with him. It feels like a spot where they're both just going to absolutely dominate. And no one's going to play him because Rashawn Holmes obviously is going to eat up a ridiculous amount. And then between Wood and Capella, there's just no ownership left for Drummond reviews.
Yeah, and people were mad at Drummond because he was really chalky the other night against Atlanta and had just a mediocre game.
Didn't even play.
Yeah, I know. So do you have any like cheap options here? I mean, Holmes obviously is cheap, but anybody other than that?
I mean, just Olynyk, he's supposed to get around 25 minutes tonight. He's played, I think, 29 in his last two, and he's actually pretty good per minute. So at sub 4K, 25 minutes is completely fine. And if they just decide to leave him on the floor for a little bit longer, he should easily beat that price tag.
Yeah, you could talk me into that. I don't mind it.
I honestly think on a different night, he's probably like 25% owned. I just feel like because Holmes is so obvious and there's other value, he's just going to go completely overlooked.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like if it was one of those slates where we just don't have a lot of value, I'm sure, some ownership could get pushed there. All right. I don't know if we have any other questions to answer, but you can give me a bold call as well.
A bold call. Well, let's quick go over this question. Let me think about this bold call. Marty said, any love for Bagley, pivot off of Holmes?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Not in cash, but tournaments.
Worry about the
I don't know
minutes.
what's up with his dad, though, dude. This is throwing me off. I need to confirm if there's any Kings fans. I'm going to tweet this out, dude. I need to confirm if he was heckling people that weren't buying Marvin Bagley gear.
That would be one of the best things.
I hope he was, honestly. That would just be incredible.
I'm gonna stick with my centers, and I'm gonna say Drummond and Vucevic both put up 55 plus against each other.
Okay, I don't.
Is that bold enough for you?
Yeah, I don't.
Should I go bolder?
No, I don't mind that. That's a good call. Actually, we didn't talk about Larry Nance. I think Larry Nance is interesting for tournaments if Drummond gets in foul trouble or something like that. Like Larry Nance, he just plays so many minutes.
Mm-hmm. He's not bad.
He's good. It's just the price tag is no longer good. Like I don't want to spend 7,100 on him, but. Bold call for me, I'll say LaMelo scores 30 real points.
Real points.
He's coming out hot tonight, baby. Chucking threes up from the logo.
This dude ain't even taking enough shots to score 30 real points.
Hey, it's a bold call, right?
I like it.
Maybe they let him start and he just goes wild, but all right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back. I think I'm with Rube tomorrow. Tuesday, low amount of games. We already got some stupid injury news with Kevin Durant, so I'm sure that will be a fun slate. If you have any more questions, we can answer them in our Discord channel. I'm going to go do final thoughts, put that up on the site. Bales has content up, dfskarma.com. You can access these projections that I'm using right here at dfskarma.com for free. If you want access to our core plays, you can get that at dfskarma.com/shop. We have basketball cores for every sport, really, but basketball. I'm really hyped for football this week, Bills. There's 3-game slates. 3-game slates are my favorite thing ever for football.
You're the king of 3-game slates.
Dude, I'm psyched, man. 2 of them back-to-back days. It's going to be great. And then Ohio State plays on Monday night. It will probably break my heart, but it's all right. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys tomorrow.